Hi guys, Elliott here from Soundcraft with another how-to video for SI consoles. Today I'm going to be talking about shows, cue lists, snapshots and isolates. What they are, where they are on the console and how we can use them during the show. So let's get stuck in. A show is our top level folder. I like to think of a show as the venue, the event or the band. And a show contains all of your basic console setup, such as fader setup, the oscillator, and the monitor settings. Within our show, there is a cue list. And within that cue list, there are snapshots. I like to think of snapshots as songs perhaps, so song 1, song 2, interval, acoustic maybe. And those snapshots can change basic settings on the desk, such as the ACS section, fader positions, and the on statuses. For example, if I have a snapshot labeled acoustic set, it could mute all of the channels apart from the acoustic guitar and the vocals. So when I load that snapshot, the desk surface changes for that specific function. Let's take a closer look at the cue list. If I hit this cue list button here on the surface, the screen displays my list of snapshots. You can see here that I've labelled my snapshots start, song 1 to 4, the interval. And if I highlight the snapshot I want to load up, I can just hit the scroll knob and that will change my surface according to that snapshot. To store a new snapshot, all I have to do is create a setting that I want to store and hit the store button on the surface. The console automatically puts a new snapshot, in this case labelled unnamed snapshot 10, at the bottom of the cue list. By hitting edit cue on the screen, I can get in further and change the name of this snapshot. Let's put ourselves in this situation. I'm the front house engineer for the same band and I mix them week in, week out on the same console. I've set up my cue list and the snapshots so that I can simply scroll through my snapshots and the console kind of mixes the show for me. I've already done all the hard work during setup. Let's say 1 gig, the singer turns up and she's got a cold maybe, she can't sing to her full potential. I need to make adjustments and compensate for her performance with the EQ and with the fader level. However, the cue list is not reflecting the changes that I've made. So I can make a change here on the Q1 and I go to the next cue and it's going to return to how the cue was set up. What I want to do is I want to lock down this channel using the isolate feature. When I say isolate a channel, what I mean is exclude a channel from the cue list and the snapshots within that cue list. Now, singer's turned up with the cold and she's a bit ill, so I want to make EQ adjustments here to compensate for their performance. Now, I don't want those adjustments to be changed when I load the next cue on my cue list, so I am going to isolate this channel. I'm going to select the channel and tap the Inputs tab up here. Scroll down to Isolate and enable Isolate. Now I can make the changes that I need to on this channel, so change the EQ from normal, maybe a bit more compression. And now, because the channel is isolated, when I scroll through the cue list using the next button, the channel is remaining where I left it. I can move the fader and make my adjustments, and the cue list is not going to erase the changes that I've made. There's one thing to bear in mind when we use the channel isolate feature on an SI console. When isolate is enabled on a channel, only the DSP part of the channel has been isolated. So that means that the input patch, the gain value, and the 48 volt switch will still be changed depending on the snapshot you have called up. So we've talked about channel isolate on an SI console, but there is another set of isolate features that we can get to, and they are on the show menu. If we go onto the show menu, I've been presented with a long list of possible isolate features. Now these are what we call show level isolates. If we enabled any of these isolates, that particular function that we've isolated will be excluded from any recall on the cue list. So regardless of the snapshot I've got called up, the isolated setting will remain the same and be unchanged. So for an example, if I'm working in a theatre and I like to always have my hands on an EQ and I want the EQ changes that I make from time to time to remain across the whole show, then I can go into the show menu, scroll down to EQ and enable isolate on the EQ. Now, regardless of the snapshot that I have called up, the EQ settings and adjustments that I make will not change with the snapshot that's called up. Let me give you another example of where these show level isolates are very useful. So I'm out with a band on tour, and when we were on pre-tour setup, I decided that this was the correct graphic EQ setting for my PA. And now, first night of the tour, we're loading in, setting up, and this graphic EQ setting doesn't really cut it anymore. I need to make some adjustments to compensate for the room. So I'll go ahead and make those adjustments. Cool, much better. But now, if I was to hit the next button, my graphic EQ setting would revert to whatever setting was stored on that snapshot. So to prevent this and to prevent me losing my new lovely setting, I can use the show level isolates. So I go onto the show menu here and I scroll down until I see graphic EQ. I enable isolate on graphic EQ, and now the changes that I made to the graphic EQ have been locked down and have been excluded from all of my snapshot recalls. That's pretty much it, guys. It's a very brief run through of the show menu, I know, but I hope you found that informative. If you want to look at any more how-to videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook for more updates. Until next time, happy mixing.